Hey everyone, it's Nick here from Higher Plane. I've got a big update for you today. SpaceWalk version 1.2 is now available as a public beta, and it brings the 3 most requested features since launch: per voice MIDI channels, velocity controls, and preset saving. Let me walk you through what's new and how. So this has been the #1 request by a long way: the ability to send each voice in SpaceWalk to its own MIDI channel. Up until now, all 4 voices went out on a single channel, which meant they all hit the same instrument. That's fine if you want one big pad sound, but a lot of you have been asking to route each voice to a different synth. Maybe a deep bass on voice 1, a warm pad on voice 2, something glassy on 3, and a high shimmer on 4. Now that's now possible. In the settings, you can now set the MIDI channel for each voice individually. You can also set them all at once if you just want to shift everything off channel 1. The default is still all voices on channel 1, so nothing changes unless you want it to. The thing that makes this really powerful for ambient work is that SpaceWalk's voice leading keeps everything musically coherent. So even when you split the voices across completely different instruments, the movement between the chords still feels connected and smooth. You're not just layering random sounds, you're getting 4 parts of a single harmonic idea, each with its own timbre. So if you're on a Windows machine and using Ableton, there's a little bit of setup to do. First thing, get 4 instances of SpaceWalk and drop them into Ableton. And what makes it easier in the long run is if you just rename each of the new SpaceWalk instances to something sensible. Here I'll just call them 1, 2, 3 and 4. And then on the first one, just choose your key and your mode. Make any changes you need to do. I'm just going to randomize the pattern a little bit and take it down to triads. Open up the sparseness a little bit more randomization. And then go into the settings. Now in the settings you'll see some new options. On there, choose per voice. And for each instance, you only want to have 1 channel on. On this one, it's going to be channel 1, and then down the bottom, I'm going to choose to be the leader. On my second instance of SpaceWalk, I'm going to go in, change this to per voice again, turn the first channel off, and the third and the fourth, and then change this to be a follower. And as you can see, it's already taken in the details from the first instance. Same on this one. Go in, change it to per voice, turn off the channels that I don't want to use, and flick it to a follower again. And that syncs with the other 2. And unsurprisingly, we're going to do exactly the same again with the 4th one, per voice. And then turn off the channels that we don't want to be using, and change it to a follower. So now we've done all of that. With each of our instances of Serum, we're going to change the MIDI from to an instance of SpaceWalk. We're going to choose the drop down, we're going to make sure that we're monitoring it. And we're going to do that for each of our 4 channels, 4 instances of Serum. And now we've got that all hooked up to SpaceWalk and monitoring. So the only thing that we need to do now, what you can see on each one of them, I'm just going to show you that each one of them has a different pad on it. Okay, and press play. Now SpaceWalk is doing its thing and sending each voice to a different track within Ableton. And you can see that they're all acting in their own independent way. and you can solo one track if you just want to hear how that one's sounding. But that's it. It's a little bit of a setup, but it's some of the really new powerful features in the v1.2 version of SpaceWalk. So in Bitwig it's very simple. You just use one instance of SpaceWalk and you set it to per voice and leave all the channels where they are. And then I've got 4 instances of Vital, and each one of them I've redirected to each one of the channels that I'm exposing in SpaceWalk. All you need to do then is make sure that all of them are armed for recording. And yeah, I've just got my SpaceWalk instance down on a track at the bottom. And then when you press play, each one goes through to its individual channels. Really simple in Bitwig. Again, you can solo each one just to hear how that's sounding itself. But that's all there is to it. Now Logic's an interesting one. So I've got SpaceWalk as my MIDI effect, but what I've got is an instance of Vital on there, and I've got that muted. You've got to have an instrument on there for it to work. Then what I've done is set up per voice, and here I've chosen virtual MIDI output. Now what this will do when you go into your individual tracks, on your MIDI input you will now see SpaceWalk bass, SpaceWalk tenor, SpaceWalk alto and SpaceWalk soprano. And we're just assigning each one of those to each one of our tracks and making sure that we are clicking the I button. And then when we press play, again each voice of SpaceWalk goes through to each one of those individual tracks. And again, as per the other ones, we can solo each one just to hear that each voice is playing on a different track. And easy to do in Logic Pro for Mac. Next up, velocity controls. This is something that a few of you have been asking for, and it ties in nicely with the per voice channels. You now have control over the velocity range for each voice, or globally if you prefer. You can set a minimum and maximum velocity, and SpaceWalk will generate notes within that range. So why does this matter? Well, a lot of synth and samplers respond to velocity. A lower velocity might give you a softer, more muted tone, while a higher velocity brings in more harmonics or brightness. By setting different velocity ranges per voice, you can create real dynamic separation between the layers without you touching your synth settings at all. So, for example, you could have your bass voice hitting consistently hard at 100 to 127, your mid voices sitting in a gentle 40 to 70 range, and your top voice barely whispering at 20 to 40. That kind of layered dynamics is what gives ambient productions that feeling of depth and space. And finally, you can now save and load presets. This one's pretty straightforward, but it's been a long time coming. Once you've dialed in a combination of settings you like, your key, scale, voicing spread, chord length, and now your MIDI channels and velocity ranges, you can save that as a preset and recall it instantly. This is especially useful if you've got a live setup or a template session where you want SpaceWalk configured a certain way every time you open it. Save it once, load it next time, and you're straight into creating. So that's the v1.2 beta. A few things to note. So this is a beta release, so it's not the finished article. I'm putting it out early because your feedback on the 1.1.4 beta was really valuable, and I want to do the same thing here. If something doesn't work the way you'd expect, or you've got ideas on how these features could be improved, I want to hear about it. You can grab the beta from the HirePlane website at hire-plane.uk/downloads. You'll need your license key, which you'll find in your original purchase confirmation from Gumroad or Lemon Squeezy, or there's a 7-day free trial available. This is a desktop release. The plan will be to bring these features to the iOS version once they're stable, and when I'm happy with how they work on desktop. Feedback and bug reports go to hire-plane.uk/support.